Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. Thank you for joining me for another Silmarillion battle. Today I've got a 2 versus 3 siege for you on ANDROS. And as per my little community announcement, this is, I think it's the last bigger game that I have for the time being. If some more games get played on our Discord, then then obviously that will change. But yeah, until then I'll be covering some 1v1s, and maybe we'll branch out and we'll do some other games. I think there's plenty of Third Age Reforged replays and stuff going around, just so you guys have something to do with your time off. Also, following that, I've got a little announcement that'll be coming up for the channel, and that's going to cover some new developments with the mod, particularly custom sieges, settlements, things like that. We've got well, I'll just tell you now, why not? Get hyped for it. We've got the Barid Ithel escalation siege, which is going to be multiple sieges to take the same sort of city, but all like themed and like sort of connected to each other visually. I'll be able to show you some nice previews for that and talk a little bit more about it. And also, we've got our Halloween event that's coming up, and that's going to be so much fun. The whole team is working on something for this right now, so I'm really, really excited to show it off to you guys. In any case, let's take a look here at some of the army compositions, and we can jump right into the battle itself. Grey Elves Mithrim going to be the first army we go through today, and they're being played by Captain Gervais, who's a regular on the channel. I'm sure you guys are used to seeing him by now. He has brought the Bannerets of the Hithershore, which is actually the legendary company for the Elves of Mithrim. They've got a nice little lance. Obviously, they're basically Fingolfin Lancers. They're a little bit more heavily armored, I think, than even some of the regular Fingolfin Lancers. Not much more, but a little bit more. And that's one of the things that Mithrim doesn't really have access to. I think it also cuts fear off the charge, so it can be an absolutely devastating bomb when used at the right moment, and even when you're not, saving them for that beautiful crisp charge that wins the game, they're still quite strong. Here we've got some Shore Riders of Mithrim. One of the things that Mithrim is good at in the new patch is they have very much an anti-armor niche, which is an excellent thing to have given how many heavily armored factions there are in the game. There's dwarves. Actually, I probably shouldn't say this, but there's going to be 2 dwarven factions. We'll talk about it later. So there will be just more dwarven heavy armor units floating around. We've also got Feanor. Most of our factions are relatively low on the armor scale, but the Noldor for sure can be a big threat. And heavy cavalry in particular is very good in the mod. So they've actually got Hunter Javelins. They don't have a ton. They've got 2 Hunter Javelins, I believe, that they can throw at people. And then they've got axes afterwards, and those are, of course, not armor-piercing. But they are quite low on the armor value, as you can probably see by looking at the model. It's only on a little bit of chainmail, and they're actually upgraded as well. So, quite fragile, except where their shields are involved. One of the things that Mithrim does well is the shield, so hard to break down from the front, and from that left side there as well. But, yeah, a nice little unit here. It's good to see these in sieges. I think that we've seen in the last little while, cavalry can get a lot of value in for the defenders in sieges. We're kind of going back to that, like, medieval 2 meta where people would often bring cavalry. In fact, it was so strong that you didn't have to surprise people for it. It was expected, and it could still do very well. Tunnel Runners of Mithrim here, anti-armor units. They've got those big, brutal mining picks, and I think they've got like a little dagger or something in their offhand. I've also got the Hunters of Mithrim, which are a Hunter Javelin unit, as their name may suggest. And, yeah, they're great at cutting down heavy armor and beasts and things like that, which is an important, very important role to play here. Actually, it looks like we've got 2 units of the Hunters there. So 2 units of Hunters, 2 units of Tunnel Runners. Lots of AP bound up in those units here. Now, one of the things that makes Mithrim a little bit different is that even their mid-tier units, their non-spear mid-tier units, do have access to Shield Wall, which is just fabulous. But they do pay for that, and that they can bring less of them. So they've got, I think in total it ends up being they've got about 2 more Shield Wall units that other factions would otherwise be able to bring. Did I phrase that correctly? They've got 2 more shield wall units on average. I think that's about the number, and they do end up being a little bit lower on numbers overall. So it is something that sort of balances out there. But we've got all of them today. Look at this. The host of Mithrim out in force today, and there's a whole bunch of shield and sword units in there. It looks like swords, sword bearers, and there's definitely some spearmen in there as well. Actually, you can tell by the banners. They got a little sword for the sword unit, a little spear for the spear unit. Pretty handy dandy. One of the new features in the patch. Over here we got some Elders of the Twilight Hearth. I think these are what they look like with their armor upgrade. They're like a heavy archer, also bodyguard tier, and they've got spears after the fact as well. So really, really tough unit. Absolutely a skirmish supremacy unit. Yeah, I'm sure they're going to get a lot of value in a defensive siege like this. Absolutely. We have the Scions of Twar, who are... they're not a berserker, but you'd think they would be. Basically, I think they use a... They have got great physical strength, I believe is the concept behind them. So they use a two-handed weapon in one hand, which I believe increases their damage quite a lot. And of course, gives them armor piercing. And obviously they're a little bit weak to arrow fire. They have a massive, massive shield available to them, of course. But yeah, missile fire, especially from the back and from the side, not protected by their shield, can bring these guys down really quick. That being said, they are also multiple HP. We've got some Hewing Guildsmen of Androth in here, I do believe, which is yet another AP unit. You're probably sensing a theme here. There's a lot of armor piercing available to this faction, but they do have some pretty significant drawbacks. So Hewing Guildsmen right there, fairly expensive. I believe it's their only heavy infantry, aside from the one bodyguard unit that we looked at back there. We've also got some Eagle-Eyed of Androth, who have... basically, their special projectile is that they don't have a ton of damage. They've only got 2 damage, which is actually 1 less than your average harassment javelin. But in all other respects, they are harassment javelins. They do have AP, they've got some good range on them. So basically think of them as a harassment javelin that trades off about 1/3 of its damage for a whole lot more range. You'll have a pretty good handle on what that unit can do. Over here we've got 2 lookouts of... Oh, actually 3 lookouts of Mithril. What do you know? I believe they're sword-armed after the fact. It's looking like maybe they have like daggers or something. I'm not sure exactly what template we assigned to them. But they're your mid-tier archer. They have a shield, so they're a little bit lower on range than most other archers would be. But it does afford them a little bit of additional protection. So this is your bog standard kind of line archer unit for the elves. They do pretty well at what they're intended for. I don't know if he's got anything else on this side. So that's going to be the long and short of the Mithrim army. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Haladin over here, being played by Nifridir, the Shadow Hunter. Now, he's got a lot more cavalry, so I'm really excited to see some of the play that both players are able to accomplish here. They've got, I think, 5 cavalry units between them, and that's potentially a lot to deal with for the attackers. Something you absolutely want to take care of before you move in, because otherwise you're just vulnerable. At least if you can mitigate their numbers, things like that. But anyway, we'll see. 2 units here of the Well-Tried Dragoons. They are like a melee cavalry, bow cavalry hybrid. They are a little bit lower on the ammunition side of things. I think they've only got about 6 to 8 ammo, whereas you'd normally expect a dedicated horse archer to have somewhere in the neighborhood of about 32. So it's a big jump down. They are mostly used for a little bit of light harassment, and then they can be pretty devastating in melee as well. Finally, we have the Warwains. We get to see them again. Hopefully they're able to accomplish a little bit more than what they did the last time around. They did okay in the last 4v4, but they probably should have been saved a little bit more for the end. Pantheon probably needed to be a bit more conservative with them, but I won't go over that. Warwains of Malduin, really strong against infantry. Brutal, brutal charge. Actually, they're one of the stronger kind of units in the game. I think if we end up doing a hotfix or something, they could lose about 3 models out of this unit of like 13 or whatever it is, and still be pretty damn good. That is how strong they are. Brutal, brutal AP charge. But big, big penalties against cavalry. That being said, you got to catch them first, and they're not particularly fast, but Haladin does have plenty of units which are quick that they can use to support them, such as the Well-Triders that you see there. Moving on now to the infantry. We've got some dismounted Well-Tried Dragoons. I believe they've changed a fair amount and become more like a dedicated archer unit, sort of similar to the whatchamacallits, the Rangers of the Girdle in Doriath. So they're a detachment-sized archer, and they've got a little bit more ranged punch that would otherwise be available to the Paladin. Looks like Nifridir has also brought some Huskarlar, medium infantry with throwing axes. They can be really, really good or they can kind of let you down a little bit. It really does depend. They are relatively light, being medium infantry. So bad things can, of course, happen to them, and it can be difficult for them to make their value back. But as a second line, yeah, these can be absolutely excellent units in a field battle. And in a siege battle like this, I could see you getting a little bit of use out of them as well. But throwing axes are a bit harder to draw line of sight on than other hand-thrown projectiles. So we'll see. Speaking of throwing axes, I have the Skaldmare of Haleth. I recently acquired a very cool new helmet for these ladies, and they will be getting that quite soon. And this is the Legendary Company, and they're more tuned towards killing monsters. Although, that being said, they are armor-piercing, I believe, in melee. Whereas the other Berserkers are not. So that's sort of the difference between them and the Berserker unit that they're sort of meant to mirror. You also don't lose control of them. They don't really go Berserk, but the throwing axes that they have can be very good against monsters. And they just hit a little bit harder than other throwing axes, so that's something as well. I think they've got about 16, 17 damage. It's quite significant. Moving on over here, we got some Rigswear, light ambush infantry. They've got some precursor javelins that you can see there in their right hands. Well, right and left, I suppose. And then they've got dual swords that they whip out because they're just badass that way, I guess. And they're sort of a lower mid-tier shock infantry. But their big draw is that they are locked morale. So this is an excellent unit for stopping bleeding and for buying you time to allow some of the more potent Halidin tools to be brought to bear. Over here it looks like two units of, actually just one unit of Swear to Brother and one unit of Warda, who are currently kind of hiding down there. Yes, indeed they are. Swear to Brother, I've talked them up on this channel a lot. They're a great light infantry unit. Not necessarily gonna do a ton of damage, but they are gonna buy you the time that you need to accomplish things elsewhere on the battlefield, whether it's, you know, bringing your mobility tools to bear for some brutal hammer and anvil charges, or whether or not you're just supporting your allied infantry elsewhere on the field, or whether you're in a siege and you just need some bodies to throw into a choke point to last for as long as they may. In their mixed in, you'll see the Warda. They're a light ambush spear. A really nice little feature of the Halidin is that they are actually able to accomplish some pretty decent ambushes. That being said, it is a bit of a balancing act because people can usually tell when you're hiding too much. But they are armor-piercing spears. That's a nice thing to have in the current iteration of the mod for sure. Another unit of Warda, another unit of Swear to Brother. I can only assume that they've been brought in here to maybe ward off cavalry charges and to surprise enemy units, because they are able to hide pretty well anywhere. And behind them, another unit of the Rigswear, and then we've got the Dour Warda, which are small clutch of Hunter Javelins, not as many as your dedicated units, and they've got pretty nasty axes to mix it up in melee after the fact as well. Beautiful models. The upgrade model here actually comes from, I believe it's the Conflicts of Eriador team. Reaper gave it to us, so big thanks to him. Another pairing of the Swear to Brother and Warda. Well, I kind of just combined the two of them there. Swarda. We'll call them that from now on. Dismounted Wall-Trider Dragoons hanging out up here, and I don't think there's anything else behind. Oh, there you go. We've got some Ulfidin. And we've got some Huskarlar mixed in there as well. So a second unit of Huskarlar and another unit of Ulfidin, and then finally a third unit of the Wall-Strider Dragoons. The Ulfidin, I should probably talk a little bit about them, because they have changed mightily in the last patch. Previously they were just, you know, your Berserker infantry unit that you see pretty well everywhere. Relentless, not a lot of armor, lots of damage, AP, things like that. Now they don't have AP anymore, but they do have a proper berserking ability, which appears to go off when they charge, or it's more likely to go off when they charge. And it is also dependent upon their morale. So these guys go absolutely crazy on the battlefield, and they get area attacks, but they lose Relentless, so the Relentless trait doesn't really mean too much of these guys. But they get area attacks, and they're unbreakable, and they're just absolutely destructive. The amount of damage they do, I think, goes up by like 3 or 4. It's hard to tell because it's just so much, and most things will die when hit by it, but yeah. Moving on now to the attackers, we've got the Elves of the Falas being played by Alexios. We've got some Spearmen of Berthombar, which is really their kind of line infantry unit. You may notice that they're a little bit light, and well, that's the theme of the party when it comes to the Philothrum. So some light spearmen here with precursor javelins. Precursors are nice, they can just do a little bit extra damage, or even against heavier things, or even medium things with decent shield value. They disrupt, they're annoying, and that's pretty much what they're meant to be. They have exceptionally good melee defense, they're really good against cavalry, and yeah, they can just hold the line as long as they're not being shot to death by things, which, you know, it happens occasionally. Marines of Brythombar, sort of the sword-armed equivalent to the spear host, or the spearman, whatever. We generally call our spearmen one of two things. Except that they've, of course, got swords and harassment javelins, so a nice little second-line unit there. 1, 2, 3, 4 units of them, so we're going hard on them today. More spearmen of Brythombar, some Arankir limbs, some heavy Noldor units here. Looks like maybe there's 2 units of them. Indeed, there are. This is basically a 1 HP bodyguard unit, so you know that they're exceptional. Really, really high defense values. And actually, their damage isn't too bad. I think they've got like 11 damage. You upgrade them, and they go up to like 14 or something. More spearmen right there. And a whole bunch of Marines of Eglarest. 1, 2, 3. Good things to have in a siege, but also really in any situation. And they're hunter javelins as well. Nobles of Balar, which are 2-handed spears. These guys are brutal. They actually hit really hard. They don't have armor piercing, but the damage that they do is quite significant, and they've got really, really strong, well, higher than average, shall we say, numbers for Noldor as well. Moving on over here, we've got Scouts of Brythombar, 1 and 2 units of, and possibly maybe some hidden units. This seems a little bit like small and mid-tier heavy. I know the Philothrum are certainly capable of bringing more of this, so I think there might be a couple hidden units here. Moving on to this side, speaking of the dwarves, here they are. One, and this is actually going to be played by Mevin, so you know it's going to be a weird army composition for sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units of axe throwers. 2 units of miners who have these fancy little charges, which are actually very painful, especially in a siege where your enemy is basically obliged to bunch up into small areas. Miners can be really, really effective there. I've also got some arbalists, just one unit of them. I guess he's got a lot of skirmish. He's probably content with the amount of missile power he has, and he knows he wants to get up and close. 1, 2, 3, 4 units of Iron Guardsmen. They don't currently have a proper armor upgrade, but they will likely get one in the very near future. But I'm willing to bet that they have them. And so they're going to have a ton of armor. It'd be very difficult to break down from the front. Brotherhood of the Silvered Hammer. I think this is their current legendary company. Most Dwarven units are very low on the melee defense side of things because they are like all heavy infantry. Those take penalties to melee defense. They have really good shield values, which after a certain point accrues, you know, stacking penalties to melee defense. This is a unit that sort of blends in a little bit more. So they're more of a medium infantry, but they do have really strong melee defense values. So against opponents that are bringing a ton of armor piercing, which AP is generally a melee sort of counter to stat-wise, then this can be a really nice unit to have. And when you're playing against Mithrim, not surprised. Oh, looks like they've actually got 3 units here of the Brotherhood of the Silvered Hammer. What do you know? 3 units of Dragon Slayers of Azagal as well. I think they're a little bit more themed around like hunting like beasts and monsters, so I believe they actually have armor piercing, which is a little bit odd for one-handed axioms. I can only really think of 2 exceptions to that rule off the top of my head across the entire mod. So 1, 2, 3 units of them there. And he probably isn't hiding anything. I don't think the dwarves really can hide too much. So we're going to pop on over to the third and final attacking army, and it's going to be the Avari. That's an interesting one to take in the siege. Usually they're quite vulnerable, and I think Mithrim could do potentially very, very well against them. But they can also do very well against Mithrim. They've certainly got the tools. So Tundra's Fox is playing them today, and he is bringing some Bow Wardens. I'm willing to bet that these are all the Darkling Woods archers, which means that they're going to have poison arrows, and I think they've got clubs, which equates to being a mace in close quarters, so that's always nice. Shades of the Guarded Path. General's Bodyguard here, but actually he does have the General in it. What do you know? 1 HP General's Bodyguard, medium infantry. The Avari don't really go higher than medium infantry. Actually, they don't go higher than medium infantry at all, unless you're talking about their tree units, but I'm not actually seeing any of them here today, so interesting. In the last few games, actually, I haven't seen too many of the, actually, I think ANDROS Fox is playing as well, so haven't seen as many of the tree units. So, Host of the Withered Ash here, this is going to be the Legendary Company. Lock Morale, two-handed spears. It's really, they've already, when they were first kind of brought in, were extremely vulnerable to pole arms, so this is sort of the answer to that. So they do have some options here for pole arms, and as I mentioned, they are also locked. So they can be a really, really nice kind of anchor to your line that the rest of your army fights around. More Bow Warden Wards of the Darkling Woods here. Stone Hewers, 1, 2, 3 Stone Hewers. I got some nasty axes. I think they're more of a medium infantry. Yeah. Less armor than the bodyguard I showed you earlier, and not a ton of shield value. But they do have really, really strong charge and attack values, being axe infantry. And they can be quite quick, so it's easy to get these guys up into your enemy's face. Actually, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units of them. Very mid-tier heavy. I don't know if he's got any other hidden units. So let's go ahead, get this started, and I'm sure we'll see as the battle progresses if he's got any of the hidden kind of high-tier units here. We have seen ANDROS Fox really favor the... oh, I can't remember. They have like the little owl masks. They're something of the Green Sea with the smoke bombs. We've seen a lot of that. And honestly, in a match like this, especially against like skirmish-heavy factions, like the Paladin can bring a lot of skirmish, and Mithrim definitely can bring a lot of skirmish. The smoke bombs can actually be really useful in mitigating the amount of damage that those units do over time, giving you the opportunity to like either engage them or to like move up and be kind of careful. Yeah, there they are. The branch stalkers of the Green Sea here. You got 1, 2, 3 units, 4 units of them. Wow. So I think this is basically the same army that we saw him take from the last game. Which, yeah, I guess he's really liking this. It does fit a good number of branch stalkers in there, and they ain't no joke in close quarters either. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a grace period here, most likely, while everyone kind of moves themselves into position. Scouts are Thombards moving forward exactly where they want to be, especially when you're playing against a Paladin and you know that they've got, or there's a good possibility that they'll have some of those nasty horse archers. It's a good thing they have some of the Scouts of Thombar in the front to screen things out and, you know, just keep your enemies honest. Scouts moving a little bit farther forward here than, you know, it's fair enough. I think they're, you know, living up to their name, trying to suss out any hidden units, but I don't think that we're going to see them. We won't see them for a little while. But whoever comes up here is definitely going to get first blood against these scouts, which will be nice because they really rely more on their numbers. They don't really have a ton of, as I'm sure you can tell, a ton of armor or even a shield to protect them. What do we got going on over here? We've got some Mithrim being front and center here with this little stake wall that people can't get directly through. Some cavalry hanging out here, so they're like in plain sight. And so is the Paladin chariot. Let's see here. The Wolf Riders move. They have indeed moved. So they're well aware that they are on the field of battle today. And I think actually a lot of them are being sent over. Not even going to try to keep it a secret. They're being sent over here to help out Captain Gervais, and we'll see what they're able to do. Looks like Captain Gervais is going to get a little bit eager here and move before the Paladin are able to move forward to counter him. I don't think that's a good idea. There's a decent amount of horse archers on the field here, and Alexios already sees that move, and he's starting to shadow it. And as I said, the Mithrim units don't have a ton of armor, so if these guys are able to circumvent the shield value on those, on the melee cavalry in particular, by, you know, whatever means they can do that by, that's a lot of casualties, and they rack up really, really quickly. And I think Alexios definitely knows that. He's going for it here with the Scouts of Berthombar. And those Paladin are a little bit far behind, but can't blame Nifredir for that. Unfortunately, Rex getting perhaps a little bit over-eager here. Or maybe he thinks he's going to be able to catch them, but, you know, light missile cavalry, you're probably not going to be able to catch them with anything other than light missile cavalry. Shore Rider's about to get shot up, same with the Bannerets of the Hither Shore. The Paladin are not too far behind, but I don't think Alexios is really going to sit around too long to wait for it. Honestly, at this point, the best thing that he could possibly do is sit here, face forward, and just kind of take it, rather than trying to chase these guys. But the Paladin, getting in here quickly. Yeah, turning around the bannerets of the hither shore, not a good idea. And now these guys are just going to like split up. There's the Avari here. They've got their own archers. This is an incredibly foolish move here on Captain Gervais's part, absolutely. And if you're going to go across this bridge, pull out this way and then like come across the far end of the shore, because that's going to put you outside of range. And if they want to like get closer, then they're going to have to like move in order to do that, which gives you potentially some other options. So he's going to lose, I think. Oof, yeah, about half the unit there with that blunder, so a big mistake. And the Mithram cavalry, it's very good. On paper, it sounds amazing, but they are very expensive as well. Plus to the Withered Ash now, zoning out the War Wains, and they're just going to be driven all the way back. Going to get right out of there. I think maybe some of the scouts, yeah, a handful of scouts, getting picked off. The Welsh Riders doing, you know, doing that dirty work, but they are highly, highly outmatched here, and there's a very dwindling window on whether or not he's going to be able to get in here. And that's going to, if he's not able to like kind of sneak cavalry into this pocket, it's going to severely limit their movement to basically in here, right? So if the red team's able to just bottle them up, that's going to really limit the amount of value they can get from their cavalry. And they've spent a lot on their cavalry, so you can see it here. They're really going to make them pay for it. Kind of got them bent over a barrel a little bit. Shore Riders now moving forward. I'm not sure what they hope to accomplish. They are going to have to turn around eventually, and then those scouts, Mostock, etc., are just going to make them absolutely pay for it. Welsh Riders managed to get across, losing, about 40% of their number. The War Wains are going to make it, and the Welsh Riders are going to make a dash for it as well. A little bit of a drive-by here. It's like a Brethel drive-by. Popping off shots into the light archers and the light missile cav as well, and they're going to get across there with, I think, minimal casualties. So it looks like maybe they kind of caught them off guard there, and Scouts of Brythombar are going to try to chase and harass. The Welsh Riders, I think, are going to be happy to turn around and take that maybe. I probably wouldn't, because these are a lot more expensive and a lot more useful, and I don't want to lose them to those light horse archers, but it was enough. A little show of force, enough to send these guys scurrying off for their own good. And, well, there were some pretty big losses, but they did manage to get all of their cavalry into a great place where now they can be an ever-present looming threat in the back lines of the attackers as they move in. So we'll see what they manage to get done with that. Popping up here, Tundra's now moving in to kind of take points here against the Mithram units. Ooh, these scouts getting a little close. Let's see if Gervais sees it. Oh, this would be a nice time to pop off a shot. No, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to capitalize on it. Yeah, and these scouts are going to be able to kind of just move through this area and do so scot-free. Scouts of Brythombar over there, looking like maybe they want to do the same. Nah, instead he's going to go this way. I think maybe that was a bit of a pathfinding thing, now that I see him move the scouts through here, because this is the much safer path to come down this way, rather than exposing them to the scouts. But luckily it worked out nice for him. Philauthor moving forward, Spearmen of Brythombar taking point, and I'm actually not seeing any of the light archers, which is a little bit surprising, but I guess not that surprising. They've certainly got a lot of skirmish on the Avari side of things, and on Mevins as well. So probably they were talking to each other, and yeah, kind of figuring out what would be, who's going to cover what bases, essentially. Spearmen of Brythombar just kind of hanging out here. I think we're going to go ahead and fast forward this just a little bit. Tundra is moving forward with the rest of his army, and I think the scouts, Captain Gervais, he can't really miss a huge army of Avaran elves, so he's definitely going to see that there with his archers. Pop off a few shots here, probably claim the lives of some of the Stonehewers. Looks like Tundra is pretty well ready to go here. And these Avari elves, look how fast they are, eh? Those like axe units, they're very, very quick. And he's going to have to hightail it out of there as quickly as possible. So they're basically going to take this area bloodlessly, and I don't blame them. This is, like, trying to hold all of this at the same time is pretty hard when you've only got 2 players versus 3. If it was a 3v3, I'd say absolutely hold this area for everything that it's worth. It is a little bit exposed, but, you know, a 3rd player, you've kind of got the numbers, and you don't have to spread yourself thin trying to do it. Oh, Lookout stopping in the middle here, so it looks like maybe he's waiting for Tundras to come up here and then get a few more kills. That's the kind of efficiency you need. You need these little victories when you're playing outnumbered in a siege, especially in Silmarillion. I find it's quite hard for the defenders to really make things more than just a game of math, you know? And once it becomes a game of like mathematics with like numbers versus, you know, numbers slowly ticking away, then that's, I think, where it becomes really difficult for the defenders. So yeah, you need to do those little things. Ooh, Iron Guardsman and the Brotherhood of the Silvered Hammer getting ready. Oh yeah, they want that smoke for sure. Word of Breathhill and the Swarta Brother, if you will. Yeah, obviously in position to block any advance into here. This is going to be interesting because there's not a ton of pole arms on the Dwarvish side, right? They've really gone heavily into the skirmish here, which is what you'd expect from Mevin. He likes to play around and like do weird things. Although apparently that's contagious because everyone is doing strange things nowadays. But not a ton of pole arms, which would normally give them a huge advantage over the Halidin, because they don't really have a ton of answers to that outside of some thrown projectiles. But I think he's going to go for more of a kind of a war of attrition here with the amount of missile units that he's got for sure. So we'll see. We'll see how well the dwarves do. Looks like down here we've got... Ooh, we're missing some action. Bit of a cavalry fight here. Scouts of Berthombar getting jumped on. Same with some of the Marines of Berthombar. So it looks like Alexios maybe stuck his neck out a little bit too much here. Those Marines are going to get charged down by like 2-3 units of cavalry and basically destroyed in just a moment here. Scouts, trying to get away, but those chariots are already on top of them. Oh, that's nasty. Oh, that's so nasty. And Scouts, you know, barely getting away there. Let's see if they rout. No, they're going to be able to get off. I think they're going to be able to disengage here, and those chariots now won't be able to catch them. Not without the speed boost from charging. Oh, another big charge here. Welsh Riders getting into the Marines of Berthombar, but there's going to be nothing he can do here, and they're going to absolutely impale these guys. Look at that. That's that beautiful, brutal charge I was describing to you earlier. Over here, it looks like, oh man, Alexios is having a really tough time here. I'm not too sure what happened or why he's in this position. Scouts of Berthombar are doing what they can, but there's no real like fast movers on the other side that can like get in here and really help him out. And again, this is where cavalry can be so efficient. Look at that. Defenders pulling ahead here by a significant percentage amount. I don't know if these Marines are going to be able to get away, if he'll be able to salvage any of them. Maybe he can sack this unit of Scouts of Berthombar, but that'll be totally defenseless in the mobility department. These chariots exactly where they want to be. Chewing out the light infantry here. They're going to just brutalize these guys. It's not even going to be fair or funny. Yeah, maybe a little funny. Means Berthombar fighting for their lives, absolutely. Moving in now with the Iran Kirlim, a big blob of them, but like it's really asking for it from the chariots, because the chariots can get in here. You know, from the front they might be okay. Oh, nice little side charge here. Looks like they're going to turn at the last moment, so they will mitigate the charge bonus there with their frontal defense. And those light cav not going to have too much fun, but oof, in come the chariots, and you can really see the effectiveness there, like the difference between the two. Now Alexios is kind of getting it together here, clapping back hard. The Marines in a good position and with enough numbers that they can really be a nightmare to these guys. Welsh Riders being driven off now with some fire from the tops of those hills from the scouts. But yeah, there's a lot of Philothrum dead that kind of got left on the field here. A good amount of the scouts went down there. That being said, defenders did take some nasty losses here amongst their cavalry, but I would say it's worth it. Look at that. 6% ahead right now. Let's pop on over to the other side and see what's going on. Looks like Mevin and his dwarves have moved in. He's moved in to sort of pin with the Iron Guardsman while he pelts to a limited extent with the axe throwers of Novgorod. Like I said, it's difficult to get good line of sight for axe thrower units in sieges without some sort of elevation, but he is able to maybe do a little bit of damage here. Rigsware going to toss some precursors down into these guys, and that's actually going to hurt. These dwarven units don't have a shield. And I can see one of them falling there. That's just going to continue to get uglier for both sides. Iron Guardsmen, though, doing very nice for themselves. That being said, they are basically outnumbered like 3-1 here. So without a little bit of further support, especially from missiles and things like that, that's going to be difficult. And this is a hard approach for Mevin, to be fair. This little lip right here really prevents projectiles from being thrown from the low ground to the high ground. So his only option here is to just like move in and try and strong arm it and just make it a quality battle, which the dwarves will usually win, but with all these extra little projectiles and things like that, there's really there's a lot that the Paladin can do to answer that quality gap and close the distance. Axe throwers really took it on the chin there. Looks like the Rigswear basically used their entire ammunition pool. They kind of got a few casualties in return, you know, maybe 10 or 12. Human Guildsmen, I think, got caught up in there as well. But this first assault looks like it's going to be rebuffed pretty quickly here. Meanwhile, it looks like more action going on here with the cavalry. And they just pulled out of a big fight there. It looks like some of the scouts maybe went down there. Nobles were brought forward, Marines doing what they can to staunch the bleeding. Yeah, the nobles haven't really taken any damage, as you don't want to get your cavalry anywhere near those. And I think the mobility force here is maybe starting to run out of steam, unless they have moved on somewhere. Indeed they have. So Warwains and the Waltriders out in the back here. And Mevin doesn't have a ton of... Actually, I don't think he has any anti-cavalry tools whatsoever. So really nicely chosen target here. These guys might, like that cavalry force, probably could tear out the heart of Mevin's army and make any sort of solo attack here on the Paladin position, all but impractical. So that's a big opportunity here. The defenders might be able to just, off the back of the initiative of their cavalry, really turn this fight around, because being outnumbered by a whole army, it's not nothing. Scouts here look like they are getting broken. Tried to get a nice little cheeky charge into some Shore Riders, and yeah, got beat up for their trouble. The Shore Riders are still melee cav, and against missile cav like this, which actually take penalties against other cavalry, they're not gonna have a good time, not at all. Looks like some Paladin moving in here. Nice little charge there into the Marines with Thombar, who are basically screwed. Yeah, there they go. Getting swallowed up by the cavalry here, and more of those defenders are going to fall on the field. And it looks like Alexios is maybe going to cut his losses here and move on while he's still got like the really significant main part of his army. It looks like the Avari are also moving in here, and they've been going at it with the Mithram Elves for some time. They've pushed through into this area, and it looks like they did so rather bloodlessly. Not entirely sure that I agree with that, but I think they're also launching attacks from the bottom here as well, from that lower ground. So maybe Gervais felt he couldn't kind of hold this, but honestly, this gives them such a nice position to rain down death and destruction upon that choke point there, with the many and manifold missile units that Tundra's Fox has at his disposal today. You know, maybe I would have fought a little bit harder for this, but maybe that's not for me to say. Actually, it absolutely is. I'm the commentator here. I can say what I like, but you know what I mean. It's easy to judge in hindsight is what I'm getting at. Sentries Mithram having no problem here fighting in their shield wall formation. That's going to make them feel real nice. Stonehewers, don't know how they got in here, but they did somehow. Flip, I have no idea. Maybe they came all the way around this way. It's kind of open. Spearman up with Thombar. Getting caught out here. Very vigorous defense from the blue team, for sure. Doing all the things right that they would need to do in order to win this game. They're going to get a volley off there, and it is going to hurt. The Lookouts of Mithram not going to appreciate that too much. And it looks like they're probably in defensive formation. So they're just going to expend... Oh, maybe they're not. Out come those spears. Now they're going to go toe-to-toe here with the Mithram units. More sword bearers and reinforcements being brought in. Some Huskarlar. Looks like they suffered quite grievously at the hands of the Mosstalkers up there, but now they're giving it back to the Avari with great vengeance and furious anger. Stonehewers kind of falling apart a little bit here. They're doing really well with support from the archers up on the hill, but almost a general offensive here. Maybe they'll be able to turn this around. Although, two of the lookout units basically getting swallowed up here by like one, maybe two units of axemen. I have no idea how they got through. Maybe they just sort of came through this little gap here. The Moss Stalkers now joining the fray, and Mithram is kind of on the verge of losing out on this. Some Moss Stalkers have now been brought in to shoot them from the back, and that poison, it's going to make them not feel so nice. You can see that they're shaken. They're on the verge of, I think, breaking now. And so once that happens, the Avari are going to be able to just sweep in here. There are still some reserves in the back, but it really comes down to, like, how much do you want to commit into this? Right? Like, are you just holding this place for the sake of holding it because you don't want your enemies to take territory? Or is there like a sound strategic reason for wanting to pour more resources in here? And to be perfectly honest, I feel like there might be. I feel like getting the Avari to bunch up in here is going to, allow the missile units from the defenders to really knock another player out here, and deal some pretty crippling damage. That being said, it is starting to even out a little bit here. We're only 9% ahead. Philothera has made it all the way across. And it looks like perhaps the defenders are at something of a loss with what to do with the rest of this cavalry. I think they should go for Mevin. 100% go for Mevin. Get as many of these kills as you possibly can. It could be the Dragon Slayers that are giving them a little bit of pause. Don't know how he died. Maybe a heart attack. Look at that gut. But yeah, I think Mevin is the target to go for. I can understand them being afraid of the Dragon Slayers, though. They're quite scary, and they'll cut apart that cavalry force in melee very quickly. Looks like, yeah, they're not doing too well here. It's more reinforcements have been brought in, so obviously they felt the need to commit the Rigswear, and they're down about 50 men from where we saw them earlier. Sweater Brother have taken relatively light casualties, and the Warda also taking fairly light casualties. Dar Warda are up here just waiting for Mevin to bring something of value in here so that they can skewer it. But yeah, Mevin's really struggling to get through here. Looks like maybe he's going to look to open up a second front. That might not be a bad idea. Obviously, the resistance here will be much stiffer. But opening up a second front might be the way to go. Or at least putting something in here just to sort of feint and make them draw forces out, that sort of thing, and then really trying to push their way through here, where I think the defense is certainly much weaker than it is in the center. Certainly a strategy that could be employed, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to pop on over to this side, see what's going on here. Looks like the Philothrum have actually moved in to kind of go more in the offensive here. Sentries of Mithrim, despite fighting downhill, they are a better armored spearmen, so I would expect them to come out on top here. And the Philothrum doing what they can to push their way through here. Looks like they have Javies. Now would be the perfect time. Let's see. Let's see if Alexios is actually going to issue the attack command he needs here, because that would absolutely eviscerate this unit of sword bearers. Maybe he's looking for a better... I'm not sure. Maybe he's torn between the two targets. Probably he just doesn't see it. Looks like they're going to move to a different position. I think these guys are probably going to go for the Hewing Guildsmen. I think that's definitely the right call. But if both of these are activated basically at the same time, he's going to chew through this whole defense here and really inflict some potentially irreparable losses on the defenders here. Losing 2 units of infantry, including one of their high tiers, that's a bad thing. Ron Kierlin moving into... Okay, they're just going to brute force it, I guess. Ron Kierlin moving in to engage the sword bearers. Perhaps too much hesitation here. Yep, Alexios is maybe going to try and get out of there, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think those Hewing Guildsmen are going to get in there. Too greedy indeed. But he could bring forward some of the other Marines here and toss those Javies uphill and maybe make a difference here, or move it out this way and give himself a little bit of a better angle. There are some Marines of Eglaris moving into that vicinity, so maybe they're going to do just that. Otherwise, let's see how Tundra is doing. So he has managed to effectively break through here. Tundra is flooding in, and that actually does make a big difference here. So Rex managed to catch some of these guys, and oof, yeah, there we go. There we go. Starting to focus down those Hewing Guildsmen. And those Marines of Eglaris are going to be able to disengage and maybe trap themselves. Okay. He's probably trying to get out of here. I think he knows that Rex doesn't want to stay there either, so he's just going to backtrack, come out through this, through that opening there that Rex just created for him. Or be crazy aggressive and just start tossing Javies at things. Some Dour Wartha have been brought all the way over here, and they're going to take a big bite out of... Ooh, the Ryan Effidune as the General's Bodyguard. We actually missed them. take a bite of the Orion Nephidoon and the Iran Kirlim. Looks like so there's some Hunters of Mithrim out here. So this is a very intense kind of back and forth. And yeah, Alexios now obliging. This is actually great. So by keeping them here, he basically checkmates this one little unit, right? So they've got to come back and deal with them, or they get skewered, or something else they care about gets skewered. But as soon as they come back, Alexios has some overlapping fields of fire here. Oh, wow. Fuck that guy in particular, I guess. But he's got those overlapping fields of fire, and he's just able to instantly respond to basically anything that Rex does. So really nice work there on the part of Alexios. Definitely playing some chess. Sentries, holding the line, doing what they can. But it looks like maybe we're going to start to see a bit of a retreat here. So some of the Philothrum have even managed to get in here. Tunnel Runners going to smash their way in, but I think the Avari might have an answer to that. No, it looks like some of the Mosstalkers are actually nearly out of ammunition. There's some smaller units there. It looks like they're pew-pewing the poor little Tunnel Runners, and you can definitely tell. You can see their morale state change very rapidly here. It's a good indication. Spearmen trying to get out, but I think they might rout here. Yeah, they're probably going to rout, especially with those poison arrows. I think are kind of hitting them. But yeah, Tunnel Runners are going to take a decent amount of damage there. They're going to move in to try and... Ooh, nasty point blank into the front of those Arankir Limb. Really nice value there, but I don't think Rex wants to hang around here for too much longer. Yeah, multiple units going to smash into these Hunters. I don't know if that's the value he wants. Another unit of cavalry coming in. Very nicely done on the part of Alexios here. Absolutely immaculate. And now they're really undermined this defense here. The defenders left a lot of holes. And to be fair, it kind of happens when you're this outnumbered. But it's really starting to hurt here. And now these Tunnel Runners are just going to be out in the open, getting shot up, while the rest of the Avari deals with this little screening unit that Rex has put in the back here. And again, once they're done, they're going to rush through here like they just did a few moments ago. So let's go ahead, turn it down a little bit, see how the Dwarves are doing. They've now moved into this area with Dragon Slayers, all kinds of things. But the Haladin are, greatly enforced. What the hell was that? Oh, that is probably the Dwarven... Yes! Yes, it's the Miners. Beautiful. Such a devastating unit, honestly. Mevin certainly knows how to use them. Lots of like pin and shoot tactics here. Big boom. I don't think most of these guys are going to get back up again. It really hurts a lot more when like the whole unit's able to throw at the same time. Otherwise, it's fairly disruptive. As you can see, I'm sure. Jesus, throwing axes being tossed into the rear of these Iron Guardsmen who are not having a good time there. That high armor is going to defend them to an extent, but damn, their losses are starting to rack up very quickly. Brotherhood the Silvered Hammer can get in there, but they probably don't want to get shot in the back by those Huskar Lar either. Reinforcements being poured in. That cavalry, they're not really doing too much at the moment, so we may see them once the Dwarves start to kind of weaken and thin out here. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them come in for the kill, just to finish off Mevin, who seems to be so far bouncing off the defenders. He hasn't really managed to budge through these choke points just yet. That being said, he still has a hand to play, still got some Dragon Slayers, some high quality infantry, more guardsmen and things like that. And lots of axe throwers and other nasty toys. The Miners, really, there doesn't seem to be too much these guys can do to stop them. More throwing axes going into the rear of the Brotherhood of the Silver Hammer. They're really not going to appreciate that. Like I said, they don't have the same kind of armor values. But let's pop on over here, and it looks like a general retreat now, as Captain Gervais has opted to just pull out of here. And I don't blame him. This is where the attackers are having the most success. Over on the Haladin side, they've basically had the offensive blunted, and I don't know if Mevin's going to be able to push through there without some help. And I think that maybe that's what they're counting on, to like ramp up the offensive on Mevin's side and really just go all in and occupy the men of Brethil over there, so they're not going to be able to be brought to bear in the same sort of strength that they would otherwise be to sort of thwart the advance of the Avari and the Philothrum. So it's a good strategy. See how it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out for them. Tunnel Runners on the front lines here. Yeah, they are very thin on the ground. There's some like tired units. It looks like the spearmen who are out there managed to be... I think they were fighting on that hill over there against the spearmen of Berthalmar. They managed to be withdrawn. And the Avari, I mean, they're not perfect, right? Like they've obviously taken some losses. So have the Philothrum. Looks like still some ammunition here. Oh, but the branch stalkers. This is a big deal. So you gotta hand it to Thunderous Fox the way he's played this, right? So he's exhausted a lot of the missile units, destroyed them, or ran them out of ammunition, or some combination of the two. And now he's bringing in the real heavy hitters, and these guys are super vulnerable to missiles. So he's just drained the defending resources, and this is what I mean where it becomes sort of almost a numbers game, like a mathematics game, and you need to like you need to do certain very aggressive things and like make good plays and be very efficient, which Rex did to an extent, but over here this got a little bit messy, which you can't really blame him too much. It's hard when you're microing against two players, but it got really messy over here, and it kind of threw away a lot of really important units. Like if they still had, you know, 1 or 2 archers or something like that, and maybe one of the other Mithrim hunter units, they'd be in a lot better position right now than I think they are. But that being said, the Avari did not come out of this unscathed, and the Phalos we saw took some pretty ugly losses as well. Let's see now, popping back over to the other side here, and it looks like the time has come, my little friends, to talk of other things, of chariots and angry melee cavalry beating your head in with their axes. Yep, the moment has come, and now that mobility is being brought to bear here against Mehmet. I think the defenders are feeling like they need a win. They need a win for sure. Iron Arbalists getting absolutely shredded here by the War Winds of Malduin, and there's not really anywhere for them to run. They're too slow, and there's no help that can really be brought to them. So miners being brought over here. These are axe throwers doing their best here to undermine this. This is sort of Mevin's, I think, last gasp as he tries to get in there with the Dragon Slayers and whatever else he's got. Oof. And the miners still laying down the pain here. But the Dragon Slayers are getting to thin out. Still some Iron Guardsmen, still other things that Mevin can do here to at least inflict some losses. Or at the very least, like, I don't think he's trying to win this. I think he's trying to just delay because of how well his team's doing on the other side. Oh, the smoke bomb's going down. Yeah, something like this. We're going to have to use something close to this for our thumbnail, I think. Just throwing everybody in here into chaos. No one's really able to hit anyone. Except for the branch stalkers. I believe they can get in there and have no problems with it while they're in close quarters anyways. Oof. Someone's raining down javelins or something, or... Oh yeah, here we go. So some of the hunters were able to be saved. That's good. There is another unit of the scouts up here. So it looks like I missed them. Elders of the Twilight Hearth, still with ammunition and some tunnel runners. So maybe things aren't as bad as I was prognosticating earlier. But I stand by the commentary of things getting a little bit messy and that really being ugly for Rex. And for the defense effort overall. Oof. Yeah, the Philothrum really front and center here. I'm surprised we don't see the Spears of Balar. This would be the perfect place for them to be. Yeah. Just absolute chaos. Can't tell what's going on here at all. God, I love the smoke bombs. Those are so cool. Marines of Eglarest pushing in. I think most of them still have some sort of ammunition left. Not sure what they're attempting to accomplish here. Oh, yeah, Eagle-Eyed of Androth have now been brought onto the front lines. And the Philothrum just trying to mass push through, so maybe that's what the... No, it doesn't look like... Looks like they're going to stop there. I thought perhaps he was going to use the mass of the spears to kind of muscle his way in here. Elders of the Twilight Hearth being moved now. Rex, I think, is starting to take this a little bit more seriously. Tunnel runners, all these things being brought forward. Whew. Looks like some of them are going to actually escape from that. Some of them will get caught up in the smoke. It just generally makes it difficult to see kind of where your troops are needed too. So the smoke bombs have a little bit of an extra added utility there as well. Looks like something is raining down on these guys. Oh, I see. The Hunter Javelins just throwing all the way downtown with that indirect fire up and over the rooftops Hoping to claim a few of the Elders of the Twilight Heart, which they did, to be fair. Oof. These Grey Elves raining down death and destruction on the Branch Stalkers. It's really where they need to be. I can't say I blame Captain Gervais for keeping them up here. This is the perfect place for them to be to really take out some like important infantry. Let's see here. It looks like spears have now been brought through, and this is a big breakthrough, I think. Unless this would actually be a good time to activate the Berserkers. The Berserkers in this choke point, smashing things up. Yeah, absolutely. Trying to get some more value from his missile units there. It looks like, oh yeah, the cavalry is now smashing into the rear of Evan, scattering what remains of the dwarves, and it's going to be all over but the crying for him, for sure. That being said, he did grind down some of these Haladin units. Darwarda are in pretty decent shape. Some Hewing Guildsmen that are like fully ready to go. And over here, the dwarves are being beaten fairly handily, but they grounded out pretty well. Oh yeah, nasty. Look at this. Look at this little pocket of of those miners. Just like almost like suicide bombing. Like it's so close that it's actually hitting them too. Detonating their blasting charges on their belt and selling their lives dearly. Brotherhood of the Silvered Hammer pushing the offensive, but it's a doomed offensive. But that being said, it is kind of keeping. Oof, yeah, those miners, man, absolutely pulling their weight here. Well, now the chariots have gotten in here, but it is keeping these forces in place, right? And every moment that happens, the other attackers are moving ever closer. And like, the force that's coming through here, it's looking pretty ragged, right? Ooh, yeah, it's really come through. What's he got down here? Some small line of troops that were like delaying the Axemen. Now these guys pulling out their daggers or swords or whatever we gave them. We're going to go toe-to-toe here with, I would say, with the hill and with the fatigue difference. They might not do too bad. Okay, there's not really a fatigue difference. They're both pretty fresh. Now some shots coming in, raining wildly from the sky from the Avari's own archers. Yeah, I'd say these lookouts here are going to be not too long for this world. They are going to sell their lives as dearly as they may. Oh, yeah, we couldn't really see too much because of all the smoke bombing, but it was pretty gross for both sides here. Some of those branch stalkers really looking worse for wear. Though there are, of course, more nobles and things like that pouring through. I think this would have been a great place to have the berserkers. I think that was definitely a misstep. That being said, the dwarves, I think, have been more or less destroyed. Oh yeah, bringing the Ulfadin down here. I wonder why. Because now he's going to lose control of them. This is one of those like unfortunate things with the berserkers. And the berserk state is very strong, but it comes with some significant drawbacks. So I don't think the Ulfadin needed to be here. I think they needed to be here to staunch the bleeding and kill as many of these guys moving in here as they possibly could have. Oh, a nice charge there from the Warwains, eviscerating a group of branch stalkers. I'm going to carry on there into the Aronkir Limb, probably kill a few more of them as well. Just delaying as best as they're able. But I think, oh yeah, they're actually going to break there. They've really pulled their weight this battle. You got to give it to them. 77 to 64, so they're still ahead, right? Ulfadin kind of charging in of their own accord, but there's some play here, right? So they don't have Berserker they don't have Relentless when they're in this state. So if you can tie them down, even if you can throw some smoke bombs in there, like that would be perfect. Throw a few smoke bombs in there, and then pelt them with like javelins and whatever else you have, and that's an excellent counter to Berserkers. It's one of those tools that's very strong, potentially game-winning, but there is a lot of like counterplay, right? Such as the missiles, I think, that Tundra's putting up there. Marines of Eglarest as well. Looks like maybe the defenders are thinking they want to make a stand here, but whew, yeah, actually some things are starting to break, which is surprising. Like, I'm not too sure why the Spartan Brother are breaking up there. And maybe hoping that the attackers would just kind of funnel in there. Oh yeah, and there comes the smoke bombs, and that's going to keep these guys in here. They're not even going to be able to charge into the nearest enemy. And I think, yeah, they're going to be in trouble as those javelins and missiles rain down here. Damn, smoke bombs are a cool projectile. Like, it does 0 damage. It does nothing. But it can be very useful. And I think we might see a big blob of important units here just get kind of caught up with some dismounted wall triders. Not sure why they're being fed in here. And yeah, the attackers, like, they're not even present in that cloud. Well, at least until right now. Come the Arankir Lamb. Taking on the wall triders and the Warda in close combat. And I don't know where those berserkers are, but I have a feeling that they're all very dead. Even the full health tunnel runners that we had, they're now being like shredded to pieces. Really nicely played by the attackers here. You gotta hand it to them. Like, great plays on both sides, but I'm particularly impressed with the attackers. Like, when it actually came down to like the infantry fighting, they knew exactly what to do and like how to accomplish their goals. So like, well played for them. Cavalry play obviously was very strong from the defenders, but the attackers really knew what was up. Looks like those tunnel runners are actually breaking, and the Warda are breaking. Now the dismounted wall triders may also break. I would pull them out of there, honestly. Just like get them out if you can. Hunters of Mithrim being brought down here. Maybe they want to get a shot at like some of this pole army. That's maybe. I think a lot of the victorious troops, like from this area, were brought in here and basically caught in that big smoke bomb like raid, and will now be unavailable for use. Oh, looks like they're going after a bodyguard actually. Oh, possibly. I didn't even know these were here. First refusers, a big deal, the first refusers, especially at this point in the game where there's not really anything left to like stop them. And the defenders are on their last choke point. Like, this is maybe like a checkmate move here for sure. Basically what they do is they have a projectile that like basically, you know, puts a timer on a section of ground, right? And the longer the things stay in that timer, like when you have nowhere to go in a final choke point in a siege, the more damage they take, and it really ramps up very quickly and can be extremely devastating. So having that at this point is very, very sneaky on the part of Tundra's Fox. More and more of the attackers pouring in. It looks like they've basically gained this hill here. Lots of like branch stalkers and other things, and the defenders will be able to... Okay, they've held on to a decent amount here, right? They've got the Skaldmare. It sucks they don't have the other berserkers. But they've got the Skaldmare. They've got some hunters. They've got... they don't have any ammunition. They don't have any ammunition. They don't look like they have ammunition. They definitely don't. Okay. So they've got one unit of Javies. They can, you know, maybe keep the attackers a bit honest. They've got one unit of the Skaldmare, who can be used to do the same thing, to like prey upon like the first refusers, for example. So they can't just use them right off the bat. Although they could use them in tandem with the branch stalkers, which is a bit of a problem. But that's about it. And there's maybe other things that they want to shoot, too. Okay, they've got some eagle-eyed. But what can you do with the eagle-eyed from this position? Well, you could put them here. Maybe. I would probably focus on using the eagle-eyed on the nobles and on the whatchamacallits, the branch stalkers. Try and thin them out. And then save the rest of your kind of close-range missiles and wrath for the first refusers, if possible. That's, I think, is the play here. And then everything else, they're just there to be kind of mooks and to fight each other. Full unit of human guildsmen, that's always nice. Moss stalkers are out there. Do they still have ammo? Oh my god, they do still have ammunition. Look at this. What a pain in the ass. But most of these units, I think, can probably handle that from the front. And the ones that can't are able to hide. Oof. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they're able to do here. I'm just looking around, trying to find something that's maybe got some ammunition that can change the equation here. Yeah, this is going to be a tough one. Tough one for sure. But Are they completely dead? I don't think that they're completely dead. I think that there's a chance here for the defenders if the attackers are going to make, you know, a sufficient number of mistakes. But let's see. See what happens. Orion Ephidun moving in. Probably not the Falas General, but a nice little pushing unit nonetheless. Human Guildsmen being brought out to counter them. Not a bad idea. Branch Stalkers moving forward. Do any of them have ammo? These guys definitely do. Look at that. That's the stance right there. I think there's some Spearmen in here. I expect this first wave to probably fail. We got Ron Kirlin moving forward. Oh, yeah, look at all those spears left, eh? Yeah, this is... I don't know if there's a way out of this. Potentially, if mistakes are made. Let's go ahead, kick it into full speed here. Ron Kirlin charging in to the Welch Riders. I would have tried to countercharge, honestly. Get that little bit extra value. Probably the attackers, they want to force some blobs here so they can use, yeah, the first refusers who are in close attendance. They won't be able to just stick their head out and do it for free, though, because, of course, there is a little bit of a high ground here that might give, say, the hunters, for example, the opportunity to kill them in, like, a volley or two. Where are those eagle-eyed? Now, what are they up to? Yeah, shoot them into the branch stalkers. Why not? Why not? It's not a bad idea. You probably get some of the Marines in there as well. That'll thin this out. Switch it back in favor of the defenders. Yeah, we're perhaps not using our resources to their fullest extent, I think. What are they actually shooting at? Oh, there's another group of them coming out here. Oh, they have Scions as well. Seems like they're shooting at nothing. Is there anything coming out this way? Huh. Okay, so they are just parking some things here. Maybe they're looking to go on the offensive. I don't know. Where are those first refusers? Are they being used in tandem here? No. That's smoke bomb. God, it's so cool. Visually, that's just wild. Hang on, I'm gonna take a picture of that. Maybe we'll use that as our thumbnail. We'll see. Javi's being used on what? Oh, of course. First refusers. Now, did they get a shot off? I think Tundra is trying to use the smoke to cover for wherever the first refusers managed to shoot, and I believe it's over here. You can start to see people just kind of dropping dead of their own accord. He's firing back. And they are taking some losses, but like it happens pretty quickly. A third of them died there very, very fast. Oof. Someone else shooting at him. Down goes another one of the first refusers, and they're coming forward again for another little raid. God, it's hard to tell through all the smoke and the chaos, right? Another volley there into the first refusers. They're kind of being body blocked for a little bit by the branch stalkers, so I think only a couple of them really took it. Oh, yeah. Another few of them are dead. But this would be a good time to bring out the eagle-eyed, right? Like, use the eagle-eyed here. Start shooting these guys as they try to... Like, you're not going to kill them with just one unit. You really are only going to get so many opportunities, and you need to focus fire. So if they were able to do that, yeah. They probably could have killed off this unit here and removed that threat from the field. And then things might be a little bit closer. Oh, Welch Riders really holding the line here. Looks like maybe we're going to try and push into the branch stalkers, use some of the Huskarlar to do so. And what's going on down here? Do we have... Looks like they are going to launch a bit of a raid. Hey! Out come the Skaldmare. I'm trying to attack into the rear of these guys. Honestly, why not? It's a Hail Mary approach, but like, I think that they don't really have a ton of like things to punish this with, aside from the first refusers, of course. Oh, they still have ammunition too. Damn, those Marines of Eglarest. But the clock is certainly a ticking, isn't it? Yeah, certainly ticking here. They are running into some pretty stiff resistance, but over on this side, yeah, where the Balar Spearmen are, they're taking on the Guildsmen of Androth or whatever with great success. And these guys are now out, and there's not really anything up here that can stop these little goblins here from being an absolute nightmare. Skuldmare moving up. Probably the Bow Wards are going to move forward. I would assume that they have used their ammunition if they're going to get this close and have it be unsupported. Where's the rest of that army? Okay. A bit of a misplay here. Like, there's a window. Like, look at these guys. They're out in the open. Skuldmare move forward a little bit. They could take them. Or they could fire, you know, maybe into the rear of some of these units here. I'm not sure. There's not a ton of things that they have to micro right now, so I'm not really sure whence cometh the hesitation here. I guess maybe they're out of ammunition. Yeah, from the look of them, they're out of ammo. Scions of Twar. Like, this moving forward, this is an opportunity to potentially surround, yes? Nice smoke bomb there. First refusers taking some shots, and I think they're trying to get out of there, but yeah, some of them get caught up in it. I'd expect maybe some of the Hunters of Mithrim. The area itself is quite small, but the effect can be very noticeable, especially because they can throw multiple projectiles. Huskarlar having to get out of there. Pushed out of position. Uh-oh. Yeah, wait for it. No? No one got caught that time. Oof, yeah, we went right back through the area of effect there. That poison bomb ain't no joke. They're gonna smash into those first refusers at the very least. Huskarlar following that up with more and more of the numbers pushing in. And that's actually going to cook some of the first refusers as well. It's so close, right? And like, the first refusers, I think, are going to hang themselves with their own petard here. Well, maybe not. Yeah, a bit foolish to move through that area. I would have expected more of them to actually get killed, but, no, I guess not. Now, yeah, this push here, there's a lot of, like, high-end units in this push. They should be able to cut their way through the Bow Wards very efficiently. You can see the Bow Wards falling, like, so many trees in the woods getting hacked in twain by the axes and maces of those bodyguard units. But up here, I don't know. Do they have the chops? Oh, got some eagle-eyed. That's a big deal. At this point, that's one of the things they really have in their favor. Those eagle-eyed have, like, just like a very, very easy shot into a lot of these units. Doing their best to hold here. How long? Morale is going to be the big thing, I think. Yeah. Nicely done here with Captain Gervais, an interceding unit, which is going to have to be dealt with. Those Mosstalkers, like the Hunters of Mithrim, actually hit pretty hard in close quarters. So they have a decent shot there at beating the Mosstalkers outright. This guy's still able to shoot. Are they out of ammunition now? Oh yeah, it's very close. 84 to 89. Like, these Finners are still ahead, still riding high on the advantage they gave themselves early on into the game. Let's see how they're doing down here. Like, this is going to be where it really matters. Scions of Twar says defeat is a certainty. We'll see. There's a lot of, like, hard-hitting axe units in here. They can go toe-to-toes with the bodyguards, at least like blow for blow, like they would normally lose. But yeah, they can go, you know, toe-to-toe with the bodyguards who are spearheading this attack, and everyone else is just, like, really tired and very exhausted. So, like, maybe that's where this is going to turn around, and this is where things aren't going to go so well for the defenders here. We do have a little bit of routing. Well, first refusers are back being a pain in the ass. Androth archers doing all right. Yeah, trying to kill these guys. Like, getting rid of them, like, for good and proper would be a big win here. They are going to suffer quite grievously in the attempt, but I think this might be all she wrote for the first refusers. Yeah, just one more volley, eh? One more. And then that's it. And down they go. Eli gonna run out of there. Looks like maybe the Philothrum will kind of run through that area as well. Oof. Yeah, they come in just at the end of the effect, so I don't think they're going to take any damage. Elders of the Twilight Hearth. Yeah, all the polearm units really saw them through here. That being said, took a lot. I think at least one of those polearm units was killed completely. A very vigorous defense here. So this has kind of fallen apart a little bit. If they had like maybe 1 or 2 more units, maybe they could pull this out. Yeah, they are beating the Mothstalkers. That's what I thought. Eagle Eye going to try and get the rest of their ammunition expended. I'd probably shoot the Host of Withering Ash. Probably going to get the most value out of that. We're actually shooting the Marines here. But yeah, I'd definitely go after the Host of the Withered Ash. Even with that, eh? It's still pretty close. Hundreds of Mithra, ain't no joke, eh? Host of the Withered Ash bearing down on them. Looks like they just used all their ammunition, so they're probably going to get a countercharge here, which is not a bad idea, honestly. Catching a polearm unit like this out of formation, they don't necessarily have like the greatest melee stats. They kind of rely more on like the power of the spear wall formation and like what it does for them mechanically. But, like, you can actually do not too bad and like turn fights around and like win them or like, you know, be narrowly defeated in places where you'd expect to just get absolutely brutalized. That being said, doesn't look like that's going to be the case here. We managed to take down a fair few of them. We pop back on down to this side. Oh, actually, it's kind of turned around a little bit now that the branch stalkers are thinning out. Not doing too bad. What did we manage to get through here? Looks like some of the Elders of the Twilight Hearth. They were going toe-to-toe against the branch stalkers, trying to help and get into the rear of these troops down here, which would have been great, but they were stopped by the Orion Nephidoon, who managed to carry themselves through 2 molts of war with 19 men remaining, all the way at this this late stage. Yeah, very nicely done. For both sides here, like this is a hard-fought game. Scions of Twar still with a decent amount of troops. They're going to try and maybe circumvent here, get around and attack the Shades. Yeah, they are actually starting to like get through, just like on the back of these powerful infantry. Oh, I wonder what the plan here is. I'm gonna hack those branch stalkers to bits, and maybe get a nice rear charge into the Shades. That could rout the Shades, but even if they did, yeah, look at this. Eagle-Eyed of Androth doing what they can. I'll let that damned polearm bug there, where they turn themselves around. Something you definitely need to look out for. There's ways around it. Issuing an attack command while they're outside of spear formation, letting them settle into combat, and then hitting it again is a good way to do it. Or letting enemies come to you, things like that. But if you're trying to be offensive, probably like the former tip is the way to go. So like take them out of spear wall, attack, and then put them back into spear wall. And sometimes fix it as well. But yeah, even if they break through, I don't know if it's going to be enough, but damn, that was a close game. Look at that, 96-97. This is the first time this entire game that the attackers have actually been up over the defenders. Scions in there? No, the Elders fighting their hearts out. Scions and everyone managed to get through here with some of the Skaldmare still remaining. Shades are basically gone. It's like maybe they're going to try and rout these guys here, but yeah, Thunder's Fox on top of it. Bring the Host of the Withered Ash back. That's it for the Eagle-Eyed. I think they're routing now. And this is it. This is the final little leg of this battle. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it down to a 1 so we can come back and see the finale. But let's just do a little overview of like everything that's happened here, right? Brutal fight down here. Another brutal fight that like lost a lot of defender resources. Dwarves getting absolutely crushed in these 2 choke points. Cavalry fights out in the back, doing a lot to the dwarves, and then out here, like completely destructive for Alexios. Like in that early stage of the game, you'd look at that and be like, yeah, the defenders are gonna win this for sure. Like, how do they come back? They've like chewed through so much of these resources, and we move it up into here, and this is probably one of the big problem areas for the defenders, right? Like, Rex, there's a lot of holes in this defense, right? There's only so much you can do when fighting against two people, but really cost the defenders a lot of important units here. And then this, I think, was Nifridir's like big mistake. Losing the Berserkers. Like, if they had the Berserkers at this point, this would be a defender victory, I think. If those Berserkers were used relatively efficiently, the attackers might not have even gotten, like, past this point into the square because of how good those units can be. And then we had the final showdown up here. And a very, very nice, like, very aggressive and vigorous defense here, ending with, like, that final assault. That, like, last gambit from the defenders. The Scions of Tuor selling their lives dearly. The Skaldmere doing their best to do the same. These are both, I believe, lock morale units. So they're going to fight down to the very end. Most of the way they're Ash, you know, they've taken some pretty big losses here. About half the army, and those Scions, man, with that relentless, brutalizing these spearmen. Down goes another one of the Scions. Skaldmere as well. Suckers think they're going to see their way through this. Somehow, the Marines still have ammunition. There's just so many of them that the Philothrum can bring. It's one of those... This is a really nice Philothrum army. We've seen a few of them where they've relied too heavily on the light units, or exclusively on the light units, and it hasn't gone well. But I think having some of the heavy units for like the pushes and the heavy lifting like this, and supporting them the way that Lexios has done with like the missile units, absolutely. I think that's a really strong way to play the Philothrum, when I have that nice balanced force in the field. And there it goes. So they did really well. You gotta hand it to the defenders. Outnumber sieges like this in Silmarillion, as I've mentioned several times throughout the video, it sometimes does come down to being a math game because of the way that we've like in the field, like all these things, all these factions, they generally do pretty well against each other, as we've seen on the channel. But in a siege, when you're outnumbered like this, like we don't have big like game changing tools. Like we don't have like 8 like BP Rangers outside of like a Syrian who has like, they have 50-man units of Rangers, you know, and they're the only faction that can do that. So you're not going to have 2-3 people on the defense who like have all this crowd control, and a lot of the things that you can use to like deal with like lots of enemies at the same time, cover is really effective against them. There's plenty of cover on siege maps like this, and line of sight can be a bit of an issue. So yeah, you got to hand it to them. They did very well. Pulling it down to that like end there really came down to like a few fairly sizable mistakes that they made. So there was like losing a lot of Gervais's units out on the outer defense, which, you know, you can argue in the comments about whether or not you think that was inevitable, or if we should have pulled back sooner, whatever. But I think losing the Berserkers was the single moment that really turned this game around and made an attacker victory inevitable. Having them, you know, laid into this and like chewing through all the pole arms, especially in that final little stand there, that would have been just brilliant. And yeah, gotta hand it to the attackers as well. They really knew what they were doing, especially Alexios. I did point it out a few times there. Alexios was doing very well with his just like movement things, like the way he moves the army, the way he, you know, positions things so that it just leaves you with a bit of a beggar's choice, like he did with Rex out there and his Human Guildsman. Really, really nicely done. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this. Hope it's a nice little start to your weekend. This should be out on probably Friday evening for some of the Europeans, depending on your time zone. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you join me next time. Take care, everybody, and bye-bye for now.